weekend. This is Annabelle Drumm here with you on Fine Music Breakfast here at Fine Music 102.5. We're also here on digital under the words Fine Music and streaming live on the internet, finemusicfm.com. Let's have a look at the weather here for Friday, 2nd of November. At the moment it's 26 degrees in Sydney and Penrith. We're looking for a high of 37 degrees today in Sydney and 38 in Penrith. It'll be very warm, and we're looking for a slight chance of a shower, possibly a thunderstorm later on, if we're lucky, if the winds pick up. Now, who I have with me in the studio right now is a wonderful, talented young Australian. He's received scholarships for talent development, studying in London and New York. Is a highly competent performer, composer, orchestrator and conductor. And he's been teaching at the Australian Institute of Music, at NIDA, and also the International Screen Academy, and recently undertaken a new position as Chief Conductor of the Sydney Girls Orchestra. I'd like to welcome Nicholas Gentile.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm so pleased you're here.
I'm pleased to be here. Thank you.
Congratulations on winning the Kruger Scholarship as well.
Thank you very much. It means a lot.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but let's go back a bit to some of these wonderful things you've been doing overseas, some of the study you were doing there. It must have really broadened your musical world, your view of it all. How do you think it's changed what would have happened if you had just continued studying here in Australia?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when I was going through high school, I did, music too, and extension music, and it was all really classically based, classical based repertoire, and I sort of felt myself in a bit of a crossroads with a desire to lean towards musical theatre. I think because of certain influences I was listening to, like Australian legends, Anthony Warlow. And I received a couple of scholarships to go and study conducting overseas in London initially. So I did that in 2010, and it was conducting with a music theatre base. Mm-hmm. And then I did some classical conducting with Denise Ham, a European conductor there. Flew back because a musical I wrote with Cheryl Sawyer, who is the author of this new opera as well, The Propagation of Fire. We wrote a musical based on her first novel called La Creole, and it won Osmade Musicals and New Musicals Australia. So they were lined up to be workshop productions of it in Melbourne and Sydney. So I came back for that. And then the career sort of just went very heavily into musical theatre. I won an ASCAP scholarship through the Talent Development Project that took me over to New York to work with Stephen Schwartz and be exposed.
Can't get better than that, really.
I mean, total legend. Mm. And we work, the ASCAP workshops look at 4 new works that are heading to Broadway, so we sort of go through the workshopping process of writing. So that sort of really shifted how I performed as well when I saw how pieces were created and sort of appreciated more the actual writing itself.
This is amazing. So the work you were doing there was around composing as well as conducting. It must have changed. It changed the shape, really, because if you were starting out with performing arts and then moving into that area, that's a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. I think since I was really young, I really feel music holistically in my body, and I'm a terrible dancer. I can't move my body at all like that. But I love conducting. Embodying the music like that is my favourite thing to do. I absolutely love singing. It gives me so much joy, and it pays the bills at the moment. But yeah, conducting was just something a little more profound that I was really interested in. So I sort of threw all my eggs in that basket after high school and sort of took the career that way. And then through obviously studying, conducting, it's all about the composition, and bringing the composition to life, which sparked my desire to get writing.
So once you start writing, of course, now that you've got the whole background of being on the stage and knowing what you need from a composer as a performer and also as a conductor, being able to know what it is that the composer needs to write down
Yes.
in order for the conductor to give it to the orchestra and
Absolutely.
the cast. So you've got, by having all of those roles covered, that you're very probably compassionate for everybody else that's going to be involved in the project, including the pre-production.
Painfully
and the crew.
so. Painfully so. It's I'm constantly feeling, as if my mind is pulled in so many different directions. One of my mentors, a lovely woman who used to head up the musical theatre department at AIM, the Australian Institute of Music, her name's Jennifer Murphy. She'd always say, Nick, at the end of the day, all the information's on the page. Never were truer words spoke, and that's what I sort of preach to my pupils. Is taking a look at the contours of melody, rhythm, lyrical devices, and obviously the use of harmony, and how much information is actually on the page already without the actual text. How is subtext worked in through music and stuff like that. In my writing, I've produced a lot of film musicals, more than live musicals, and I had the privilege of writing one in particular for Australian legend Philip Quast, who's an Olivier Award-winning actor. I wrote this musical film for him with one of my writing partners, Lincoln Hall, and he made the film with us, which was really wonderful. And that was incredible too, working with a world-class actor. He really taught us as we were going.
That's the way, isn't it? It's a two-way process. It's
Absolutely.
not just about you, dictating everything that happens.
That's it. It's I'm very open as a composer and a collaborator to anyone's involvement in the creation of a new work. It's my favourite thing, developing new works. And so we pitched to Philip with a particular score, which he absolutely loved, and he agreed to do it straight away. And then as soon as we were, I was teaching him the score, he started just asking me a few questions, which I knew were coming from the actor.
Right. Yes.
And how to characterize this character, and it made Lincoln and I guess it inspired us to rewrite some different things to really follow that train of thought, and at the end of the day, you just end up with a clearer picture of the story.
Imagine if you ended up with a whole series of those musical films with the greatest actors in Australia.
Well, I feel like I already have them. So it's a musical trilogy. It's actually on YouTube.
But it can be more than a trilogy.
Yeah, well, that's
Come
true.
on,
It could be a full. It could be a full film.
That's it.
And that's actually the goal with the opera, The Propagation of Fire. Actually, for myself, we've made these 3 short films. They're about 15 minutes each, and so I can see now how.
How to scale it up.
Work, yeah, absolutely, and how a sung-through work translates on film, because my master's is in orchestration for film and television. I have a huge love of music, film music, so.
Before we go on to the opera, let's just have a look at the
course.
project that you're working on at the moment. That's coming up in
Yes.
December. Tell me a
Yes.
little bit about that one.
Okay, so that's. It's a new show that I've created called Broadway Reimagined.
Right. And who are you going to be using for this one?
For the show in December, we have a fabulous cast. We have Ashley Rubenak, who was the lead in The Sound of Music, The Crybaby most recently. Ashley Rubenak, Lincoln Hall, Brittany Shipway, and Spencer Bignell. I'll be conducting on the night. It's a 9-piece big band. It's really a real heavy jazz show. And essentially what we do is we take really famous Broadway tunes like Defying Gravity, Be Our Guest, Aquarius, and we musically reimagine it to be a quartet. And so, for example, Be Our Guest is done as a jazz bebop number. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of the concept.
And we've got a sample from this musical that's coming up.
We do today.
So let's have a little listen. I'm with Nicholas Gentile at the moment, and this is a piece from a project that he's already worked on. And after that, we'll have a little bit of a talk about what he's going to do with his Kruger Scholarship.
Something has changed within me. Something is not the same.
And I'm with Nicholas Gentile here in the studio at Fine Music Breakfast. Nicholas, you were singing in that piece, right?
I was. That was myself, Lincoln Hall, who I actually wrote those trilogy films with. Also a performer and singer, Ashley Rubenak and Billy Palin.
Lovely. So that was from the show that it's already premiered, but you've got another one.
Yes, it's already premiered. We've got our
up.
first standalone concert at the Pioneer Theatre in Castle Hill. It's a brand new theatre on the 1st of December at
Not
8
far
p.m.
away.
Yeah, so BroadwayReimagine.com.
Sounds good. Nice and easy. Now, look, we're here to talk about Kruger Scholarship as well.
Yes.
This is something that's relatively new for us at Fine Music. It's only been around about 5 years, and it was taken from a wonderful bequest that was, it's offered once a year to an Australian between the ages of 21 and 30 who shows the greatest promise in a career in performance or composition of classical or jazz music. And the scholarship is to be used for a major project laid out in a submission, which is sent to us here at Fine Music, and the panel take a look at it. And Nicholas Gentile, you are the one that won this scholarship for next year. So tell us a little bit more about your fabulous mammoth opera that you have got in the works.
Well, at the moment, it's called The Propagation of Fire.
Working title?
It's a working title. I feel like we might need to change it to something a little more...
Easy to remember?
Maybe. Yeah, something punchy. I'm thinking Voltaire. The story is about Voltaire.
That's easier.
So essentially, look, Australians have reason to be proud of Australia's operas composed and produced within Australia, which is why I'm so grateful to receive this scholarship.
And so many of the older operas, even though they're our favourites and they get beaten to death,
yes,
they really do. And there's so many of them are about things that don't necessarily happen anymore, like people dying of tuberculosis,
yes.
or you have a lover and they don't want you anymore, and so you throw yourself off the bridge.
Yeah.
I mean, these ideas are not necessarily what happen all the time anymore.
Absolutely.
So tell us a bit more about your one.
Even though this piece is set in 1738, the current crisis in international relations and the perceived threats to democracy in many countries mean that today citizens of the world are desperate for messages of inspiration and of hope, longing in essence for principled leadership that holds true to the ideals of equality, justice and rational thought propounded by natural philosophers such as Voltaire, Maupertuis and Émilie de Chalat, who is his lover.
Mm-hmm. Tell us a bit about the story.
Yeah, okay. So...
nobody dies of TB, right?
No, not at all. Not at all.
We're on to a good thing.
It's it's essentially a love story. The opera presents three geniuses under one roof for a single day during the Enlightenment. And the intimate conflict reveals their fears and their jealousies and their ambitions and desires. And at the heart of it all is Émilie. I would say she's the main protagonist, even though we're going to call it Voltaire. People know him. Her contributions to mathematics and the sciences are, they still resonate in our time today. And she did something absolutely profound, which is worked against the gender norms of the time, So it's got a bit of a feminist, The
women's lib will love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Women will absolutely love it. And
but
I think,
also the story between, the idea of a triangle and the lovers and things. I mean, that's timeless.
Of course, exactly. So it's got all the traditional stuff in there that you would expect, and it's incredibly dramatic, but I think the focus for me being on Émilie's character is really important. The biggest people who have had the biggest influence on my life have always been women, and so I want to reflect that in my work. Yeah.
Now
always.
it's going to be such a big project, being an opera. So we talked a little bit before about how the studies that you've done in London and New York have given you so much more insight as to how big projects are made by some of the best experts in the world. So you're getting an idea for how you're going to scale this up. This is going to be a project over a year.
Absolutely. Well, it will absolutely be more than a year. With the scholarship, what my aim is to do a piano vocal reduction of the whole score, and I'll be recording it here at the beautiful new Fine Music Studios. I'm writing it with Julie Goodwin, who's a current young artist at Opera Australia. She's my Emily. She's the only one I'm absolutely certain of at the moment. So I'm going to write it for her. She'll record it for us. But after that, long term, for myself, it will be made into a film. On set at the chateau in the countryside of France, which still exists. All the production elements are there. The house is still presented in its period piece. It's more of a museum, I guess, at the moment. And so all the production elements are there, and it's going to be a film crew and the cast, and it's quite
That's
a small...
big vision, a big,
it is a
clear
big, it is,
vision.
absolutely. But,
This is why I think you win things so well. If you've won other scholarships as well, you have a very clear idea of what it is that you want to achieve, and you dream big.
Totally. And it is big, but it's also, I think what's important is knowing how achievable it is.
Right.
And essentially this story, it's 3 leading players set in the one place,
Right.
for a single day. And it's got an ensemble of 8, if it was to be on stage. So these sort of conventions are really, really easy to convey on film. So it won't be, I hope, anywhere near as expensive as, it's not a Hollywood budget film. But that would make me really happy to see. And I simply won't stop until I do see the full film version of it.
So how are we going to keep track of your project, and how, so that we can keep an eye on you and see where you're up to?
Totally. I will be starting a vlog, which is a video blog on my website, which is www.nicholasgentilemusic.com.
And I'll link to that through my Facebook as well. So anybody
fantastic.
listening in, if you want to tune into my page, then I'll point you to Nicholas's
Please do.
page. Yeah.
So the page is already set up with some information about the opera and about Cheryl Sawyer, who's written the libretto, and obviously information on myself. And that's where I will, from January, every month, I will upload a video just sort of going over where I'm at in the project, and I'll also be showcasing some of the music in the in the vlogs as well, and some singers singing the work.
Well, I think we have chosen a very good Kruger Scholar for next year. I think you're going to do a great job, and I'm very excited to watch the progress of this opera.
Thank you so much.
It's wonderful. Thank you so much for coming in today,
pleasure.
Nicholas Gentile, and we're looking forward to watching how this project grows.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.